Hello, everybody. This is Oliver from Rock Kaput, and today we are covering one of the second tier thrash metal bands from the Bay Area. We are ranking all the albums by the great Death Angel. And if you like it, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and be ready to hit me with your comments. Welcome, Alex, my
Glad to
partner,
be here. Thank you.
my partner in thrash. You're welcome. And let's not beat around the bush. Just get in there. I forgot. I wanted to do the history of Death Angel, right? So I'm going too fast right now. Death Angel formed in San Francisco in the early 80s. I think they played for the first time in 84, and which is crazy because they were all really young. So they were teenagers, basically. Not basically, they were and pretty talented, all related to each other. So two of them were brothers, and the others were cousins um, with from Filipino descent. So yeah, pretty distinct look to them, and yeah, I guess had major influence on the Philippines with being the first band out there. They recorded their first album in '87, The Ultra Violence, and their drummer was only 14 by then, which is crazy when you listen to that album. It's still, yeah, a candidate for one of the top 10 thrash metal albums of all time, or from the US or whatever. It always comes up in the conversation. They released their second album in '88 called Frolic Through the Park, and we will talk about what happened on these albums. Then they hit it big, getting a major label deal with Geffen, recording their third album, Act 3, in 1990. And yeah, they were aimed for the breakthrough, had a slot on the Clash of the Titans tour, and then they had an accident. Their drummer got injured very badly, needed more than a year to recover, so they stopped all actions and yeah, and disbanded shortly after. A couple of them, so the whole band minus the singer, I guess, founded a band called The Organization, doing this kind of funk rock in the mid '90s. They had another band called Swarm. None of those really made a dent, and then they reunited in 2004 for their fourth album, and recorded a couple of albums since then, but their last one is 7 years past, so 2019 was the last one. But they are still around. They are playing in Germany just this summer. So yeah, maybe we'll get a new album soon. I think last year they released a new EP or a single, something like that.
Two songs.
Yeah. So yeah, let's dive right in. Alex, start with your number 9.
All right. So just a quick review of me with the band. I love them from the start. So I'm buying their stuff in real time as I'm into thrash. Love the debut, but I love, the diversity that came. And I think it would have been interesting to see what they did in the '90s, but you can't rewrite history, right? So they kind of skipped that decade. And a lot of people say that sort of that '90s sound crept into the 2000 albums. I would argue that they already had such diversity before that. I don't pick up on a lot of that. I will say, not a bad album in the bunch. I like them all. Um, Spoiler alert, earlier period is my period versus the late period. But I want to stress that embrace the diversity, right? When after that first album, when you get to the second and third, I was used to that versus an Overkill album, which I sort of knew what I was going to get. And that's fine because I love Overkill. But Overkill wasn't putting out anything like Frolic Through the Park. So, and as you mentioned, I kind of like too that not much of a turnover in the band, and Mark as vocalist on all the albums. So it's always important for me, especially in thrash, that we kept that kind of consistent. So all of that aside, my ninth one is going to be Humanicide from 2019. Their ninth album so far on Nuclear Blast, and the third in this Wolf trilogy, which all ties together with the incredible artwork. So this is produced by Joe Sukoff, who did the three previous albums as well. They've got kind of him as a band member at this point. it's the first time that they've recorded more than three albums with the same lineup. So again, you're getting the consistency. And on these later period albums, it's mostly um, Mark on the lyrics and Rob on the music, and that's different from early on. So I will say, as much as I love Mark on vocals, I love the tones and textures in his voice when he's singing. And the last number of albums, he really does this kind of scream, and at some point that gets to be too much. I like the inflections that he brings. So, first three or first four tracks, I'd say, out of the gate, great thrash numbers. Um, the third, Aggressor, has an acoustic passage, so you get a little bit of a reprieve from just the pummeling. We get to Immortal Be Hated, more of a heavy metal song than a thrash song. I like that. 6 minutes, guest piano on that by Vika, very cool. And it ends, or I should say, Revelation song is an Armored Saint like heavy metal song to me. Again, not so much a thrash song. It ends on Of Rats and Men. This is where he gives us a little bit of a different vocal. I love it. Unfortunately, it's not on the vinyl. It's only on CD, so or streaming. So again, not a bad album, but my least favorite of these nine.
Okay. It's so funny because I always think when I go through these rankings, you can't rank them any other way than I do. And then you always surprise me because
I wait till we get to the top. I'm really gonna fuck things up.
because my number nine is The Art of Dying, their reunion album from 2004. And at first I liked it because I think it starts out strong. The first four tracks are the best on this album, I think. Starts with a furious thrasher called Thrown to the Wolves. Um, Five Steps of Freedom follows that lead. Thicker Than Blood has a little bit more of a rock and roll vibe. Pretty heavy though, but I like that one. And then The Devil Incarnate gets a little bit doomy, um, different. So I like these four tracks. The sound of this album is sounds a bit rawer than what they did in the 80s or what you would expect from a thrash metal band. Um, Sounds very organic, dark, and you catch a little bit of that alternative vibe on that album. Um, and uh, like you said, they have, as soon as the second album by them hit, they had other influences in there, and I think they were good at those. But sometimes, and during this ranking, sometimes I was asking myself, who is this band? What's their style? Um, but I'm also not happy when that they are going full thrash for their last album because then there's also something missing, right? So pretty weird, but yeah, to me this is their weakest. Famine, I think is horrible. Don't like that one at all. They have two punk inflected or hardcore inflected songs, Land of Blood and No. They're okay, but that's not what I want from them. The last song, Word to the Wise, is pretty cool. Reminds me most of Act Three. So melodic acoustic ballad where singer Mark Osegueda shines. And I agree with you that he nowadays he's in full on thrash mode, and I miss because he's such a great singer that he's kind of underused with the way he's singing today. Um, this isn't a bad album, but to me it's the worst of the bunch. So this is nine.
Yeah, and say what kind of band are they? I'm gonna get to that as we get um towards my favorite. And yeah, it's almost like they want to prove they're a thrash band, but you are a thrash band. You're many different things, right? We've had this discussion on other shows too. Sometimes Flotsam and Jetsam and Metal Church, are they thrash? Are they not? Are they power? Well, a lot of these bands were a mix of everything, but the thrash element is there certainly with Death Angel. So. And I also say you're very politically correct when you say give us your comments and my ranking is different than yours. I always like to say this. My ranking is right to me. Your ranking is right to you, and whoever's watching, your ranking is right too. So I'm saying these are all good bands. It's all just how we hear things differently. So for my eighth, I'm going with The Dream Calls for Blood from 2013, their seventh album, also Nuclear Blast, and again, part of that Wolf trilogy. So, as with most of their albums, right, they start out of the gate with a great thrash track and full on, and that's Left for Dead. Then we go to Son of the Morning. Mark mixes in that tone that I like. Killer guitar work. Again, we talked about this with other bands, Exodus and so forth. Guitar work is always stellar, even back when they were just kids, right? Um, Fallen, another Fast and Furious number. I like that, but there's some nuance to Mark's voice. So yeah, again, just to have such a great voice and not utilize it the way that I want it, that's some things are missing for me. So the middle of this, heavy thrash, kind of good, solid, nothing that I'm going to name check or stand out. Detonate, I think, is a great track, and here we get some crazy screams from Mark, and then Digi release only. Bonus track is Heaven and Hell cover of Black Sabbath. I like that, but it's certainly a bonus track, not a cover that I love as much as on another album we're going to mention. So that comes at number 8 for me.
Okay. My number 8 is Killing Season, which is their second album post reunion from 2008. And to me, this one and the one I talked about before, The Art of Dying, they are almost interchangeable. I think they have pretty much the same sound. So raw, organic, not too polished. There's a little bit of that alternative vibe, so it's a little bit gloomy sounding. Um, I think this is a little bit more consistent. Um, so there are no tracks that fall out of that sonic template they have. No punk experiments on here. But on the other side, those first four tracks I mentioned on the Art of Dying, which I thought was so great, I don't hear anything on that of that caliber on here. So a real standout is missing to me. First two, like on the last one, pretty straight out of the gate, thrash metal songs, Lord of Hate and Sonic Beatdown. Sonic Beatdown with these nice gang chants or gang vocals. Dethroned, a little bit slower, also pretty aggressive. Carnival Justice doesn't do too much for me. I like Soulless and the News. Um, the News basically is the title track. He's singing about a killing season, but it's not called Killing Season. Why? I don't know why. When Worlds Collide, yeah, not bad, but it's not really my sound. I think they were trying to be off the time when I think they should have just let it loose back then. And yeah, I miss that quality that they had on their earlier albums on here. So yeah, this is my number 8.
All right. So my number 7, I discovered, is the only one I don't have a physical copy of in my collection, and that is Evil Divide, their 2016 album. There you go. Eighth album, also Nuclear Blast. So first two tracks, The Moth, Calls for Alarm, again, typical bangers to start. Then we get to Lost, great vocals. One of my favorite reunion era um, songs. This is a side of Mark that I love. It's his great voice versus this kind of forced scream. Father of Lies has some different moods, nice breakdown. Then again, we get to that middle to later part. This heavy thrash block of songs, all good. Let the Pieces Fall is the 10th song. To me, that's a very strong ending track. Again, there is a bonus track on the Digi, which is Wasteland by Mission, which I think is an unusual song to pick for them. But, again, not much different in that versus the original version, but it does showcase his voice. So that's going to come in at number 7 for me.
Mission, like the British Gothic band.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. My number 7 is their 2010 album Relentless Revolution. And this is the first one where they are going all out thrash, probably doing what a lot of people wanted them to do in 2004 and probably in 1988 and 1990. Um, but yeah, like I said before, there's a little bit of the personality missing on these thrash metal albums. So this is all very professional sounding and solid. Um, on all tracks, there's usually a killer guitar solo by Mark Cavestani. Um, Good songwriting here and there. The opener, No Frills, Thrasher, the title track. Claws in So Deep is switching between harsher parts and melodic parts. Has a beautiful, lengthy acoustic guitar outro by two Spanish guest musicians. Also like that one. The third one, Truth, is also great. But then they are venturing into new metal territory a couple of times, and that's where Mark's vocals become a bit grating. He's screaming all the time into the arms of righteous anger. They sound a little bit like Machine Head, I think, on that one. River of Rapture, also don't like that one too much. Absence of Light is a good one. Um, in the end, Volcanic is more melodic, more epic. So this is more adventurous sounding. For me, this is a step up from their first two reunion albums, and I like this one. That's a good thrash metal album, but like I said, it sounds something is missing. The production is very clean and clinical, so it doesn't feel that organic and lively anymore. Um, yeah, good album, but not an album I love. So this is number 7 for me.
Well, and so that's number 6 for me, and I had to just double check because I'm still confused by this whole thing. So the album name is Relentless Retribution,
Ah, okay.
but the first song is Relentless Revolution.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I still don't. I thought I had a typo multiple times. So anyway, I put that here as well. So this is the first with Jason Sukoff on production. I think he definitely gets better on producing the band as we go along. Um, I kind of, agree with a lot of what you said. That a banger to start as always. Claws So Deep. I like that 8 minute epic. There's dual vocals with Mark and with Rob, and Rob is also a vocalist and does some other tracks and does his own thing as well. So I think he's a cool singer. And also there's acoustic outro on that by Rodrigo and Gabriela, who are a Mexican guitar duo who are fantastic, and they do a version of Metallica's Orion. So side note, check that out as well. But I think that's a very cool song. We got again kind of the middle part of this solid thrash. It all very good. The Death of the Meek, I do like. Mark singing, layer vocals, opponents at sides. Again, nice change of pace. I like that. Volcanic, which you mentioned, and that's Rob. Not only doing the music but penned the lyrics. One of those X Factor songs. Uh, to me, sounds a lot like something Stone Sour would do. Think of their song Bother. But I like it, a heavy acoustic kind of thing. And then Where They Lay is Mark's kind of scream song. I think it's weird order. I would have put Volcanic at the end as just kind of a, ending note rather than break it up and have this thrash number come in after that. But again, still a good album. It's just comes at number 6 for me.
Yeah, my number 6 is The Dream Calls for Blood, which is the album after Relentless Retribution. And yeah, it's pretty much a mirror album to that one. It sounds even more clinical. I think I get a less of a new metal vibe from this one. So this is more classical, technically proficient thrash metal. Um, and I could repeat what I said about the last one because this is good. I have nothing to argue about it, but I'm missing kind of the wow effect or something like that because there's not really something that stands out and captures me and makes me go, wow, I need to listen to that one again. It's just like they want to be just a competent thrash metal band. Left for Dead is the opener, great song. Fallen, you mentioned it already, is great. The title track, I like that one. Succubus is a good song. Caster of Shame, it's a banger, but they were really special in the 80s, even on their first album, and they are not so special on these albums, I think. So yeah, probably they are doing that sound better than a lot of bands do it today, but yeah, it just there's something missing, and I can't really say what it is.
Yeah, you bring up a great point. We're not saying anything's wrong with these. They just don't stand to us out to us. Now, having said that, part of that is because I was there at the beginning and I lived with those albums so long. So somebody that's picking up later Death Angel and that's their favorite because that's their entry point. Again, nothing wrong with that. It's just all kind of where we come in. And so my number five is Killing Season from 2008, their fifth album, and that is partly because of what came before it. And I love those albums. So I like the diversity. Now they did bring in producer Nick. I'm not going to try to attempt his last name because I always butcher names, but he worked with Foo Fighters, Rush, Alice in Chains, right? So you're getting his kind of different elements on this. This is the final for all of the original members, and this is a band credited piece, except for Ted. I guess he didn't write any songs on this. I like the opener, mix of screaming and then his cool tone, mark that is. Dethroned, it's a kind of acoustic opening into a breakneck thrasher that kind of ebbs and flows, strong chorus. Buried Alive, it does groove a bit. I don't get the groove metal just because they did such different funky things early on. So did they inspired groove metal more than I think groove metal inspired them. Soulless, a cool voice with some a cool song with some grit and tone to Mark's voice. And Resurrection Machine to me is a killer ending track. This 7 minute epic, different moods. There's some aggression to it. Uh, I like ending with this because I sort of like, okay, where are they going to go next? So that comes in at number five for me.
Just one correction: they have a new guitar player on those first two reunion albums because you said same lineup
Oh,
than before.
oh, okay, yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah,
I
yeah.
think Gus Pepper is missing, and there's Ted Aguilar or what his name is uh, in the band for the
Oh,
2004
okay,
album.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so my number five is The Evil Divide. And I think with this album, we are getting a little bit more of the Death Angel of the late 80s and early 90s because there's more of a melodic element on this album. It sounds more organic, not that clinical and clean than the two I talked before. Um, yeah, The Moth, Cause for Alarm, Lost, Father of Lies, great opening. I also like Hell to Pay. Um, uh, yeah, this one surprised me a little bit. I listened to, I didn't know the new ones when going into that. I really only did know their first three and listened to those albums for this exercise for the first time. And listening to them in chronological order. Um, when I came to this almost came a little bit as a shock because they sounded different, re-energized, and a little bit more courageous in songwriting. Probably Mark has the chance to shine more here, and he's not just screaming throughout the whole thing. So yeah, this is my number five.
All right. My number four is The Art of Dying from 2004, their fourth album. So again, band effort minus Ted. He has no songwriting credits. Um, Thrown to the Wolves is a 7.5 minute epic. I think it's a great way to announce they're back, right? Because this is now, as we mentioned, their comeback album first in 14 years. It has different feels and flavors to it. It still thrashes. And if you are wondering why I keep bringing up Mark's voice and tone, just the way that he sings Silver Spoons on that tone is what I like. I just think he's such a cool voice. Five Steps of Freedom, another one that gives you kind of that Death Angel sound like no other in thrash. They really are unique across their body of work. Thicker Than Blood, full on thrash like that. The Devil Incarnate slows it down. Again, Mark vocal on the first half. Um, I love the way that is, and that picks up and thrashes at the end. To me, it's sort of a reminiscent of an Act 3 song. Famine, I get what you're saying. It's kind of groove like. There's actually a talk box on that. You know, I don't know, Joe Walsh made a guest appearance or what. That's a little strange. Prophecy I like though, ripping thrash song. I think you mentioned that you don't like No. Since I've been doing this exercise, I can't get that song out of my head. I don't know, well, and it didn't pick up on that when I first bought this, and but now all of a sudden I love it. Again, that sounds like something that could have been off of Frolic. Spirit. Now, this is Andy on vocals. Very cool voice, kind of new wave of British heavy metal feel. I like Never Again. Again, it sounds like a kind of a frolic track. And then Word to the Wise. Now here we have Rob on vocals again. Another kind of stone sour type thing. I like the way that this track ends versus the other. And if you're into Rob, you know, not only organization, he did some solo stuff. So this is really just kind of bluesy acoustic. I don't want to say folky, but I mean just him kind of shining with guitar and vocals. An interesting element of this band. So I like this album probably way more than some, and that's why I have it at number four.
Just when you mentioned the silver spoon thing, I absolutely don't like how he sings American Dream Gone on Famine. This
Mm.
vocal line annoys the hell out of me. I can't stand it. And he repeats it lots of times, I think, during the song. I just don't like the how the melody goes. Yeah, my number four is their last album, Humanicide. Um, I could repeat what I said about the other thrash metal albums, but I think this is the best of the bunch to me. Um, just well rounded. The songwriting is there, great solos. I like the production more than on the other two, on The Dream Calls for Blood and Relentless Retribution. But I don't have that much to say about it. This is my number four, and yeah, if they repeat something like that for the next one, I'd be happy. But still, the great stuff is yet to come with the next three.
And I think that Wolf trilogy, I mean, not only the covers look the same, it is. You could switch those songs around, and you know, it's hard for me to pick standouts. Again, all solid, but
Yeah.
I want memorable, and I don't get a lot of memorable. So, uh, are we ready to really lose viewership now? Because coming in number three is the Ultraviolence,
Ah!
and I will explain. Okay, so the '87 debut, right? Um, Again, on this one, Rob Now is the main songwriter. Dennis and Mark do some. Produced by Death Angel and Davey Vane. Yes, that Davey Vane from the glam metal band Vane, right? Before he went on to do that. So I love this upon release. There was a lot of hype, right? This band was now Thrash is really going. I remember reading about them. Uh, but at that time, I heard it after the big four, and then the next three or four, or however many you want to say, and all this other thrash that I was listening to. I love it. I probably liked it more then than I do now, just because now when I listen to it, I don't think it builds on anything that came before. It is an absolutely stone cold solid thrash record. But as I'm going to talk with the next two, I get into them more later on because they're so different. So, not to diminish anything from it, it's still my number three. I just view it differently now, and it's sort of why I don't like the big four. Their debuts are not my favorite. It's the second, it's the third, it's the fourth album that I like. So, and this band also kind of started out very young, as we mentioned, into the new wave of British heavy metal before they became a thrash band, and those elements kind of carry on. So, starts off four thrash bangers in a row: Thrashers, Evil Priests, Voracious Souls, Kill Is One. Great. Can't say anything wrong. Strictly as thrash songs. The title track is a 10-minute epic, way better than it should be for a bunch of kids, right? I mean, this really is. If you want to look at it just from that, what's the best album by the youngest band? Okay, but there's other thrash that I like of this time period better. Mistress of Pain, Final Death, two more thrashers. Then we get a goofy little instrumental with some spoken word at the end. So throw that off. You really get seven songs. So to me, those seven aren't as strong as what's going to come next. Again, still love it. Don't hate me out there. That's how I listen to it. But it comes in number three for me.
Okay, so Yeah, scandalous opinion. I can't say anything else. But now you will get the right ranking. Uh, but I just switched. I have to admit it, because just when we were doing it, I was switching the next two, and my number three is Through the Park. It's way less goofy than I had it in than I remembered it. Um, it's still pretty thrashy and heavy, um, and those other influences aren't that prominent as I thought. But still, this is a long way from the debut, just in feeling. Um, there the lyrics are different. You don't have them talking about mistresses of pain and ultra violence and evil priests. But now the songs are called Why You Do This, Bored, Confused, Guilty of Innocence, Open Up. Yeah, different feel. Um, Still technical, more technical than before, you could say. There are Road Mutants is in the vein of the first one. I think you have can say that. And Devil's Metal is also a throwback to the first one. But then you have these influences from other styles. There's a little bit of funk to it on Bored and Confused. Um, there's a Kiss cover, Cold Gin, not bad, but I could do without it. Open Up is also pretty experimental for them. Um, this record gives me a little bit of a Van Halen vibe. Not that they sound like Van Halen, but they sound very playful and exuberant and just exploding with ideas, and everything has to go on that record. So there's a little bit of a red line missing, maybe, but that what makes this album fun, and you always hear what they are capable of on their instruments. And like I said, it's still a metal album. Back in those days, this funk thing was kind of in the air. A lot of metal bands were implementing those sounds, and I think Death Angel did it better than a lot of those. Sometimes it was just like this very corny slapping the bass stuff, but yeah, they pull it off. Still, there's two records I like more than this one. Yeah, Frolic Through the Park's my number three.
All right. So before I get to number two, you bring up some good stuff when you're talking about Frolic. And let me explain where I was at that time period. So I was into bands like the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And I'm not talking about Blood Sugar Sex Magic. I'm talking about Uplift Mofo Party Plan, Freaky Styley, right? I was into bands like Faith No More. Not talking about the real thing. I'm talking about We Care a Lot. So when this came out, it just, as much as I liked the debut and played it, um, Frolic, which is my number two, was on constant repeat. I just love these songs. Again, when I talk about memorable songs and I want to be able to play them back in my head, that's what this is loaded with. So uh, why I love it. Now this is produced by Rob and Andy. Davey Vane comes in and does some mixing, but they sort of take over the reins. And here's what I want to bring up: when people say in the '90s and later, a band became, bands that were established in the '80s took groove metal or new metal or alt metal. This is almost ground zero for alt metal, right? This is very different from the first album. I agree with you. The thrash elements are there, but so are all these other influences. So they were there kind of ground zero doing something that I can say this: no other thrash band of the big four, the next four, the next 20 went from first album to second album and did this, right? This was revolutionary for them, but they're also still kids and they're just taking all the things they're hearing and their influences and kind of doing whatever they want uh, without a chaperone, let's say, right? So maybe somebody else would have came in and said, "What are you doing?" And they didn't have that. And unfortunately, they kind of downplay this album or dismiss some of it. And I think that's wrong because this is a great album. To me, it's kind of, you think Celtic Frost Into the Pandemonium, how that was off of their other stuff. This is their Into the Pandemonium for thrash, right? This just took it in another direction. So there's funk and there's punk and there's hard rock. There's a little prog. I mean, it, you're just hearing all kind of different stuff. They broke the cookie cutter mold, which is part of my issue with the debut. Is it is by the numbers, very good thrash, and that's it. And you just get so much different on this. I think they became in a very short time better players, better Mark, better singer, better songwriting. Third Floor, to me, I can't ever get that out of my head. That chorus, just since I first heard it, as you said, Road Mutants, thrash for sure. Why you do this? What other song by any thrash band sounds like that? There isn't. Bored, I loved right out of the gate, and that was the single. It was played on MTV, and I want to show off this. Here's a 12-inch of Bored with the hype sticker. But what's funny about this is Cold Gin, the Kiss cover, is the A side. Bored is the B side. And they even say Cold Gin back with Bored from their upcoming release. So I don't know if Cold Gin was going to be the single and they changed it, but it's B side here. So a weird novelty. I just want to show that.
Cool.
Uh, Devil's Metal is a non-LP, only on the CD, but thrash with musical twists and turns. Confused, as you mentioned, 7 minute, fast and furious parts, and at other times, totally different. Open Up, absolutely funk metal, way ahead of its time. We talked about cover tunes and my issue with a lot of Megadeth. I love Cold Gin for some reason. I just think they kind of do a ramped up, crazy version of it. Um, I like it. Mind Rape ends with a thrasher. So again, is this a pure thrash album? Absolutely not. And I can see why it turns some people off. But me, liking the diverse nature of music that I did, I reach for this way more than I do the debut. So I had to put it at number two.
Nice. And this was formerly my number three, and I just switched it. Like I said, it's Act Three, from 1990, their major label album, which should have made them big but didn't. And this was when I started listening to metal. Like I said, that was late '89. There was a little bit of prelude to that. And then I started buying this metal magazine over here called Rock Hard Magazine. And this was in one of the first issues I bought. This was Album of the Month. But at first I didn't buy it, but a friend of mine did. And we loved it back in the day. Um, Great stuff on here. I love the opener, Seemingly Endless Time, which is, yeah, you could call that a thrash metal song. It's kind of selling it short, but technically it is still thrash metal, but like proggy, psychedelic thrash. Um, Veil of Deception is this acoustic ballad which could have made them stars like Extreme or Mr. Big or something like that. It's not worse than those songs.
It's better than those songs.
Yeah, probably. The organization, which gave their 90s project their name, is a cool rock song. There's a couple of experiments on here. Like I think Discontinued is a bit funky. Room with a View is another ballad that's also beautiful. Great vocals by Mark. Stagnant is a great song. Disturbing the Peace is another angry one. Yeah, very versatile album. Lots of different styles. In all, it has a more hard rock vibe, I would say. So it's more commercial, you could say, and didn't work out for them. But it shows what they were capable of. I prefer another album by them, and I would have loved what they had or could have done in another dimension with these influences on that first album. But this is the way they went, and this is a damn good album. But this isn't a thrash metal album, so and it's fine. But yeah, there's another one that scratches my itch a little bit more.
Not for me. So that's the one. And as much as I played the debut and then played the Frolic even more, This was in constant rotation, and also my wife Heather, who's a huge music fan, but wasn't as into thrash as I was. Loves this album to this day too. I mean, and like you say, is it a pure thrash album? Absolutely not. So it's produced by Max Norman. That's important because he worked with Ozzy and Savatage and Armored Saint and Grim Reaper and Lizzie Borden, right? So this is taking all of what came from their first two albums, but growing even more. A band from their first to third album, you can look at somebody like Megadeth, or at least that's the fourth album to me, or a band like Metallica for sure. The growth of this is staggering. We're talking about a 3-year period that they go from that debut to this. Amazing. And probably why it stood out at the time and why I still like it. And I want to stress Veil of Disguise and A Room with a View, those ballads. This is 1990. The Black Album comes out in 1991 with Unforgiven and Nothing Else Matters. This was the Black Album before the Black Album. These should have broken this band big, but they're on Geffen now. There's some label issues. There's other things that are going on. So unfortunately, this was kind of just a lost in the shuffle. Uh, as you mentioned, seemingly endless time and stop. Neither of those fit any box. Discontinued absolutely, as you mentioned, the front funk. Stagnant is another one that blends styles, but there's heaviness in there. A great guitar solo, but it strays into other territories. The last three songs end with some heavy moments, some thrash moments in it. I think Mark never sounded better. This is the Mark. This is why I say those later albums I don't like as much. This album I played so much, it's ingrained in me. I just love his singing on this, and I missed that on those other albums. If it didn't have that, if I only had the first album and those, it'd be a different story. But they gave us this second and third album, and again, that's why to me that's the sound that I like so much because it's so different. And we've done other thrash shows on here, and we're doing stuff with Martin, and I love thrash. Don't get me wrong, but when I'm used to a thrash band that's only thrash, that's what I'm used to. When I get what I get from Frolic in Act 3 with Death Angel, that's my sweet spot. That's why I have those at the top two. But I think overall this is a fantastic band, and I harken back to what you say and echo what you say. What would we have gotten after this in the '90s had they stayed together? It's the great unknown. I do think the two albums that they put out once they got back together have touches of that, but I think it would have been a different flavor for sure. And no matter what, across their body of work, one of the most interesting bands of the thrash family tree for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and what I wanted to stress is if they had stayed in the lane of the debut, what would have happened then? You know, because I mean, they could have been a mind-blowing thrash metal band with what they did on the first one, right? But that's not what
But
they wanted, obviously.
no, but that's a great point too, because yes, if they would have improved as strictly thrash writers the way they did from one to three, totally different thing. They did. They went in this other direction. But regardless, that I still stress those kids, and they were kids over that 3-year period. Man, what growth! Amazing.
Yeah, Andy Galeon, the drummer, was 17 when they recorded Act
Mm.
3, so that's
Right, and it's kind of funny too. That back when last time they do a cover of Cold Gin, and nobody was of legal drinking age here when they did that. So, yeah.
yeah, right, right. Yeah, okay, no surprise what my number one is. It's the Ultra Violence. Love the cover artwork. Um, I can't really describe what it is that I like so much about this album. We talked a lot about Mark and his voice, and he's not using his abilities on this one to the fullest, but man, his screech and scream on this one is off the charts. I love his vocals on this one. I think he sounds insane. Um, I love the guitar sound. It's screechy and noisy and yeah, unhinged somehow. It's just it has a completely unique sound. It sounds different from any other thrash metal bands. You already mentioned a lot of the songs. Kill One with that super high pitched scream he does. It's great. The Ultra Violence. I would you would have a hard time finding me to love a 10-minute instrumental, but this one is great. Um, I had
It
just
could have been on a Metallica album and you wouldn't have batted an eye.
if
Yeah.
I just had to get to 60 minutes of drum solo when I did a Cream ranking, so I'll take this one any day over that one. Um, Mistress of Pain, Evil Priest, Voracious Souls. It's just maybe now I'm ranting the whole through the whole video that they didn't do a follow up to this one, but maybe that's what makes this one so great. I don't know because this is a one-time glimpse we got of this band, and then they basically left this sound. Yeah, absolute classic. Maybe one of the top 10 thrash albums. I think I said that in the intro. You can definitely argue with that. And yeah, but very adventurous band. Um, Maybe a little bit frustrating because there are so many questions that comes from these records. Now they are having gotten back to the thrash sound so many wanted, but now we are missing what they did on Act Three. So yeah, it's kind of difficult.
Yeah.
But
It's
yeah,
definitely a band I would say that, if you're not a thrash fan, I'd give you Frolic or Act Three, and I think you might like it, right? And so that's the kind of disconnect when you look at that first album, which is purely thrash. And I just want to quickly mention that. So they put out this box set, right? So if you're a big Death Angel fan, that is the first and second album, and then there's also disc of rarities, and there's a DVD. And the first two albums also have bonus tracks. So if you don't know that exists, that's one to definitely add to your collection.
so listen to Alex's advice. Go out and spend some money on Death Angel. Um, I'm not getting any funds on here, but I'm doing it for the love, and I hope you appreciate it and give us your thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel, and yeah, hit us with your comments on Death Angel and whatever you want to throw at us. Thank you, Alex, once again for sharing
Thank
this
you.
time with me, and we'll see what we'll do next. I guess there are still a couple of bands on our list. Till then, bye bye.